Ladies and gentlemen, the commissioner of the NFL. Don't listen to them.
No.
Roger Goodell.
Shut your mouth.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't listen to them, Raj.
They're idiots.
Hey, Darius.
They don't know. They don't know.
Hey, Jay, how you doing, man?
Roger. Commissioner.
You're our commissioner. Don't worry about these bums out there. Okay, so my take has always been when you're the commissioner of a league, you're always going to make a decision that's going to inevitably piss off some fan base.
You notice that?
Yeah. I think there's been something that has happened, but I think what you have done with our league is nothing short of phenomenal. So first of all, I think all of us would like to say thank you for the direction in which the NFL has gone. It's bigger, badder than ever. We had 275,000 people here yesterday for the draft.
Amazing.
It wasn't like that before. Yeah. This under your leadership. So from us to you, we'd like to give you a gift that we know you're a big fan of. Ladies and gentlemen, some peanut M&Ms our commish. For our commish, obviously you can
take. This is why we're on set.
Yep, you can take these with you.
Oh,
you can take them home.
I might just. I got a gift for you.
What?
Oh. You ready?
Yeah, I like that.
With the 222nd pick in the 2009 NFL Draft.
Oh yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts select Pat McAfee, Hunter, West Virginia.
Hell yeah!
Come on here, baby.
Good pick.
Thank you, Raj.
I'll pick him up.
Thank you, Raj. I'm not going to pick you up because you got that
That's
back.
all right.
Yeah.
I got it. There's your card, baby. That's real.
That's awesome.
I've been keeping that for, 15 years?
You had it in your back pocket this whole time. This is cool. Thank you for this. Okay, so on this note, the reason why we learned about your peanut M&Ms is because the COVID draft, when you were sitting in that leather chair, and then you had your peanut M&Ms. But if we think about not only battling through that and navigating that, but making the draft what it is now, and I know this is probably a vision of yours to make it a spectacle, but it certainly has become that. I mean, 275,000 people to anything is absurd, let alone just 32 picks being announced on a stage. The ratings are going to be bigger than any playoff game that's happening. How did you know the draft would be awesome if you traveled it? And at what point did you start initiating that? And did you see this? Did you see this happening?
No, Pat, I'd be kidding you if I thought it was going to be as big as it is. The reality is, though, we felt like we could be bigger than we were in Radio City. But it was a real risk to do it because it was really popular. You're in the media market. We had a great event going there. But what happened is Radio City actually put a holiday show in and said, you can't have the draft until June. Wow. And that's when we said, we're out of here.
So they kicked you out.
That's when we went on the road.
Okay, so I like that you had to adjust.
Yeah, no, it was, well, we were thinking about it very hard, and we really believed it would work. And then that just forced the hand, and we just said, okay, we're going on the road, and we haven't looked back. So we went to Chicago the first 2 years, and they did a great job.
And then obviously Philly and Nashville, and I mean, Nashville almost became like the gold standard for it all, and then what we saw last night here has been fantastic. But the cities that you pick is a big deal. Tone Diggs has a question for you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I do. It feels like you've kind of found your sweet spot in cities to go to, these blue-collar cities like Philly, Detroit, and Cleveland, Kansas City, like
Nashville,
the football cities. These football fans show up. Did you find that these football cities are kind of the perfect location for the draft? And Green Bay next year, one of the most historic franchises of all time. Okay? And then I know there's a local media in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who is trying really, really hard for the draft the year after that. Can we announce right now that the draft is going?
Yeah, in Pittsburgh.
They're in the mix. I'll tell you that.
We need to know.
Right,
in the mix. So that could be coming soon.
So are they selling you just like with Super Bowls? These cities?
No, the bidding process for this. Actually, there's almost as much demand for the draft as there is for the Super Bowl, because so many cities can't host the Super Bowl, but they can do the draft. But it's getting to the point now where the draft is it's not in the same league, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's huge for the offseason. Yeah. For us, it's like it saves us. We get to talk about what's potentially happening. We get to experience it, the fallout, the drama. It is perfect. Now, what you guys have been able to master, I think, which every other sport's trying to do, 12 months a year, the NFL is conversation. Yeah. And I know that whenever you took over as commissioner, allegedly, you never said this publicly, but the way it was understood is like you laid out a plan to the owners about how this is where I think the NFL can get to, this is where I think our game can get to. European, expansion, obviously that's huge. Not only games in England, but now in Germany. I assume you're going to go other places.
South America this year.
Brazil. Yeah, now we're in Brazil doing this. What's next? Because everything is up and to the right for the NFL. Ratings, money, sponsorship, eyeballs, interest, growth. Like, what is next? Do you have another 10-year plan? And how do you continue to grow when it seems like everything else is plateauing in the world, not only sports world?
Well, I think the number one thing is you keep your eye on the game, right? If the game doesn't stay strong, then I think all those things become more challenging for us. We really do believe we can be a global sport. So I see us playing at least 16 games on the road at some point in time.
Okay.
And on an international market. That may be 10 years out. But I see us getting there at some point. Will a franchise ever happen or a division? Maybe. I think that's beyond 10 years. So.
Yeah, that's going to be really tough, right? Logistically?
It's got a lot of challenges competitively. The logistics, I think we can solve. The competitive side, you get to Sunday night at the end of the regular season, you say, okay, Seattle, you're going to London. That's a rough one.
Yeah, it's a 12-hour flight. You might as well be going to Asia or whatever in the middle of a season. And then let alone, do you have a home base for workouts and tryouts and signing?
Yeah, you could do that, and we've talked about that. And that could solve that if you put your playoff games in a U.S. market, potentially a neutral market. But that's tough, right?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And you talked about the game being great, and this is my last question before the boys, I assume, have some as well. We know you hate football. Okay, Raj, we're getting rid of the hip drop tackle. We got a new kickoff coming in. And we have a video of Raj and Bill Belichick talking that we'll be releasing on Monday where you guys address everything. But for this particular conversation, whenever you get the data and analytics and you realize, like, okay, we can make our game safer but keep it explosive, is that where the decision-making is coming from? And do you hear all the people, I don't want to say in like blue collar cities, but in football cities and the old school people saying, well, they're just going to ruin the game. Like, it's not going to be football anymore. How much does that weigh into the factor in the conversation? And how much is it like we need to get safer so this game can live forever? Because I assume that's not easy.
No, it's not. And I got to tell you, Dan Rooney, who I was probably as close to anybody with, and I spoke to him every day, but we'd argue every day on this issue because he was more of a purist, right? And he said, this isn't football. And, my argument is it is football. It's still a physical game. These guys are faster. They're more athletic. Mm-hmm. We don't need those shots to the head. What we don't need the techniques that we've seen, the hip drop. Yeah, or absolutely. And so,
Jim Harbaugh did that to me in the hallway at the annual meetings because as soon as we heard about it, every former football player is like, hip drop tackle, we don't even get taught that. Like, nobody is taught, like, don't hip drop tackle. And then I saw Harbaugh, Jim, in the hall, and I was like, what are your thoughts, old school football guy, on the hip drop tackle being taken out of there? He goes, needed to happen. And then he demonstrated to me what it was. He, like, grabbed around my back, and then he threw he's huge. He's a big dude. Yeah. Threw his body on the back of my legs. Yeah. And he was like, we just need to eliminate that. And that's like.
And it's not that many plays.
Okay.
And we're also seeing it start to happen in college football. We saw it down in Florida State this year. And not only are there more injuries, there are more severe injuries. Guys are out for a season, maybe in a career. So they lead to very significant injuries. So, and it doesn't happen that often. And we got to coach it out, we got to educate it out, but we may have to officiate it or find it out.
Yeah, so probably find it out, right? That's everybody's kind of understanding.
I think in the initial phase, it's gonna, it's an adjustment for everybody, right? The coaches, the players, the officials, all of us are going to have to adjust to it a little bit. But that's always the way it works.
Do you guys think about, like, if one of those gets called in the fourth quarter for Kansas City, let's say, for Kansas City,
man.
It's going to be as loud as hell. That's a judgment call. It wasn't called earlier. It was a fine this time. Don't you think you're kind of adding to potential, I don't want to say discrepancies, but at least a little bit of fodder for these people that'll get very loud about something?
I think the way we'll deal with it with the officials is if it's very clear and obvious.
Got it.
You should throw it. If it's on the edge, that's not what we're looking for because they're still training their eyes too. And so we're looking at that. We can deal with it as fines. And hopefully that'll get it out of the game very quickly also.
Just like you guys did with the quarterback set, like early in the season, it was like, or the shots to the head. Early in the season, it was like boom, 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 boom. Yeah. And we were all bitching, like, nope, this isn't football anymore.
Bullshit.
What are we doing?
Or body weight on the quarterback was another one.
That's a tough.
But you don't hear about it much anymore.
Who are in these rooms when these rules are coming out? Like, are they players, former players? Like, who are in these rooms?
In the
Or
rooms back in their office?
In
Yeah,
the
when the
room,
rules
Guys
are-
like Troy Vincent,
Got
Dahn
it.
Runyon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the vast majority of our guys are players that
Yeah.
played a lot of years. We got, I think the last time I looked when we had a player come in, it was over 100 years of experience sitting in the room with us.
No, I heard there's no football guys in.
That's exactly what we heard.
I'm not putting myself in there.
Yeah. Hey, Connor's got a question for you.
Yeah,
Commish.
Commissioner. First, I want to thank you on behalf of everyone for taking Christmas Day. I think
Hell yeah.
I think
Hell
all of us
yeah.
can acknowledge that Christmas and the presents will be so much better with some football on the TV. At what point did you decide, like, hey, I get it, Adam Silver? Did you call him? Did you say, sorry, but this is ours now? We are taking Christmas from you? Or what was that conversation, and when did you know, like, yeah, we have to play games on Christmas every year?
And Black Friday now has a game.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think we've looked for those opportunities where we can create an event out of it. And, you know, holidays that's what we do. Thanksgiving has been our biggest day of football for years.
Oh, yeah.
Detroit, these guys
Right
watch the
here.
team
Right
lose
here.
every year.
And they helped create it. But, you know, we saw it. I think we averaged 30 million people for the Christmas games
Massive.
over the last
Pretty
4
good.
or 5 years. So for us, that's where our fans are. So I don't ask permission for that. We go where the fans are.
Hell yeah.
No, we're going to go and we're going to find a way to satisfy that. It was a little more challenging this year with the Wednesday. But what we've proven here, we can do the Sunday to Thursdays, no health consequences whatsoever. The data does not show that. So Wednesday, Saturday works. So we're going to have 4 teams playing on Saturday. We'll mix them up and play them again on Christmas Day.
Okay, so I have a question about games. We went from 16 to 17 games.
Yeah.
And we were only on the internet when this happened. So I don't know if it made it to your office or not. As soon as it happened, I was like, okay, this is a clear opening to 18 games. And then if you add an extra bye week in there, which I don't know if that's been discussed, now we got 20 weeks, 20 primetime games, let alone whatever other days we're going to. Now the NFLPA is always going to fight against having more games. Is there a plan to continue to expand? Because 17 games feels good now. Like at the beginning, I think a lot of players, and I don't want to talk for in the locker room, there's probably a lot of offensive linemen and things like that are telling me to shut the hell up right now. But as fans, it's like 17 games has just become like status quo. Is there a thought of adding another one, maybe adding another bye week so we can get more exposure, more TV deals, or are we good at 17 right now?
Well, I think we're good at 17 now. But listen, we're looking at how we continue. I'm not a fan of the preseason. I don't think we need 3
Waste
bowl
of time,
games
right?
anymore.
And energy.
I don't buy it. And I don't think these guys like it either.
Well, they have to spend full price for the tickets for those games.
No, they're actually discounted now. So
Thank
yes,
you for doing
we
that.
got that done.
Thank
a
you,
few years
Commissioner.
ago.
Thank you.
So you're our commissioner.
That's our commission.
Thank you, Commissioner.
But the reality is, you know, I think I'd rather replace a preseason game with a regular season any day. That's just picking quality, right? So if we got to 18-2, that's not an unreasonable thing. The other thing it does, which I thought you were going to, is that ends up on President's Day weekend, which is a 3-day weekend, which makes the Sunday night, and then you have Monday off. So that's
Wow.
Now we're cooking.
See,
now
now you're
we're
going.
cooking.
Did you talk to the president about having the Monday after Super Bowl off too?
Need that.
Yeah, we saw you at that oversight committee when I was really excited for you to get in there because
Yeah, it was fun.
I called you Goodell. One
your
guy
name right,
one guy
yeah.
called you Goodell.
Yeah.
But I've said this for a long time, and it's very real. You're one of the greatest speakers, orators that has ever existed. And I figured that out whenever you had to come to all the rooms, all the teams, right before the lockout. And you stood
Oh, I
in-
remember in that with Jeff Saturday. Right?
Yeah, that was a hot room.
Yeah,
That room got
was
hot.
a hot room.
That
yeah.
was a hot-
That was a very hot room.
Yeah, and you handled it though. Like, and then we walked out of there, and I'm like, damn, that guy's one of the greatest. That guy's one of the greatest speakers I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, somehow put the fire out, and then we watch you do it. Why do you think, like, commissioner is the job that you are meant for? Why do you think you've done the job that you've done? Now, not every decision has been perfect. I assume you look back and there's some stuff where you're like, made a mistake here, misjudged this, should have done different. You're not going to be perfect, but why do you think you've had the success that you've had at the commissioner role? And what is day to day for you? Just trying to figure out how we continue to grow the game?
Listen, I think the first thing that I've always had was a true understanding of what the commissioner's role was, because Pete Rozelle was really my mentor. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why I got into business, and I think he's the greatest commissioner there's ever been in sports. But it's also, you got to have that passion for the game, and you got to feel like that's family. Like I've got to do everything I can to make the game the best for these guys, our partners, and that's the starting point. So every one of your decisions is in the best long-term interest of the NFL. The second thing, the challenges, is that what you asked?
Yeah.
I think the challenges for us is dealing with success. I said that since I became commissioner. When I went in for, I guess, my 15-minute conversation with the owners before they selected a commissioner, I said, the biggest challenge is you get complacent and you start thinking that success is going to continue, because you've got to stay ahead of things. You got to keep getting better. You got to keep looking for new things to do, and that includes making the game safe. It includes going international. It includes
streaming
looking at new platforms. It includes trying to look at a better season structure where you're giving them better quality rather than lesser quality.
You've done a fantastic job. I mean, they'll boo you. Everybody's going to boo you.
That's all fun, though.
Yeah.
Fun and games.
And whenever we say that you have to answer to 31 billionaires, how accurate is that?
32. Well, you're not counting Green Bay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Doesn't count.
Big pop. There's a Green Bay Packers.
I didn't do he did.
Yeah. No. That was. So is that an accurate assessment?
I don't actually think that way. I actually think I answer to them. I think I answer to the media partners. I think I answer the players. I think I answer the owners too. The idea for me is to try to keep everyone happy. I always say that my biggest job is not to piss off more than 24 owners in a given day.
There you go.
Quick vote. Everything changes. Speaking of voting, if you're on this set and you'd like full-time refs, say aye. Aye.
And not on the set. They jumped in.
Okay, so Bill and I talked about this yesterday.
I'm excited to hear. Monday we'll release the video.
Bill and I talked about it yesterday. And we did a little bit of that right before COVID and stopped it during COVID just because of the circumstances. And we didn't see a difference. It doesn't mean that we did it right. So we still look at it. But I'm also sitting back and I'm watching a lot of playoff basketball, hockey. I'm hearing a lot about officials, and all of those guys are full-time. And my only point to that is this is a human game. It's a fast game. They're people like you and I. They make mistakes.
Got it.
For us, the way to correct it is to try to add technology. And so replay assist is something we're bringing even further in this year. And by the way, Coach Belichick was one of the biggest proponents. He's got another one, which we hear. He'll tell you on the show. But he says it every year, and I think we're going gradually more comfortable with that to allow the officials more information when they make decisions.
Yeah, we've heard after further discussion by refs on the field last year more. That's the beam down.
Yeah, that could be a pool, but more than likely someone's in his ear.
Okay, so you see the XFL do that and other leagues do that, and then you think you're maybe it's a little bit of a precedent type thing, or how do we ease into that?
No, I didn't see that. That's something we've been doing in the last several years because there were always very strict rules with replay. We always wanted to be avoiding subjective calls. It had to be an objective call. We've now moved a little bit further with that. But it was really more, they wanted the call to be made by the referee on the field. And it still is, but we're giving the referee more input.
Assistance. Yeah, a little bit more help.
Whether it's the replay official or whether it's somebody in New York that's looking down and says, I saw that. His foot's out of bounds at the 3.
Got it.
You missed it. The idea is here to be consistent in officiating and avoid those errors that are game-changing. Right?
Yeah.
Officiating is part of the game.
Well, the issue is, I see it in 8K at my house. I'm seeing it in an 8K in super slow motion, and the ref wasn't even allowed to look up at the Jumbotron for certain times.
That's correct.
Yeah, they weren't even allowed to see it. So the entire stadium of 70,000 people is watching a zoomed-in mistake that is in there. So I'm happy that you guys are embracing technology because I think, if you use it as a tag team partner as opposed to it's trying to correct you, the game's going to get better and better. I do appreciate you saying.
But you also point out one other thing, which technology. We see more today than we could see. I mean, you go back and look at a film 20 years ago.
AJ's film?
10 years ago. It looks like you're playing the 50s.
It's much different.
Yeah, it's classic. How much louder has it gotten, I guess, the gripes with the refs or lack of full-time refs with the growth of sports betting? Because obviously sports betting, people talking about the script, Taylor Swift showing up to games, things happen. How much louder has it gotten in your office with the growth of that?
I haven't felt that at all. Okay. I think for us, it's always just constantly what it is we need to do to make the game better. Obviously, when you have sports betting that's legalized, it was illegal at the time, so we still protected its integrity. We didn't support making it legal. The Supreme Court made the decision. We've got to adjust to that. And when we did, you do have to be partnering with some of these partners because they actually give us access to information that can detect something before it really becomes a problem. And so we get a lot of information by being involved there. People think that's, conflicting with our previous position, but we just have to adjust to whatever the law is. That's the way it works.
Anytime, though, like the NBA has had to deal with it with one of their refs, Tim Donaghy, I think, like 10 years ago, and then Jonte Porter just happened just a couple weeks ago. That ruins it for all of us. I think, like us as former players, the same thing. Whenever you gave a season-long ban to Calvin Ridley, I think, and there's a lot of people comparing that to like other punishments that have taken place. It's like that one. Everybody that's involved with football understands. If we mess this up, it messes the integrity of the game cannot ever be questioned, even though it always will be because of the outcomes of sport. And why sport is so awesome is because anything can happen. But like, if there's any proven shit like that, it can ruin everything. And obviously, we all understand that.
Without question. If people think there's an influence on the game other than the players on that field, we're in trouble.
Well, Taylor Swift, we know.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's a different kind of influence.
How about, hey, listen, a lot of jokes are made
They're
on
booing Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you can't boo.
There it is.
Yeah, you're going to be a part of an album.
Wow.
Do it. Get a little louder. She is going to cook you. I'll let it be known. You had to be, and obviously the internet talked about your reaction to Taylor Swift all of a sudden becoming a part of the NFL family. Oh, yeah. Also on the reigning Super Bowl champions, one of the most famous players we have, and somehow in a suite that has 4 cameras on it every single primetime game. And now a demographic got exposed to football. I saw a lot of tweets from like dads saying, my daughter watched more NFL football with me this weekend than she ever had because Taylor Swift. A lot of the internet was saying Roger Goodell is sitting at home through the moon about this.
Well, they thought it was part of the script.
Yes.
Too, right? Yeah.
Well, then you went and talked to her. Then you went and talked to her. There it is. But as that's happening, you think to yourself, like, obviously, as the commissioner of the league, this is good for the league that the biggest superstar on earth right now is interested. But when it starts happening and you start hearing the noise, what is the reaction from you guys at the office? And is it like we're trying not to mess this up? We don't want to be too much. We don't want to be, like, what is the NFL stance on it? Because she's selling out every stadium.
Mm-hmm. No, and listen, there's some things you can control and not control. But listen, anybody who's interested in the NFL, that's good for me and good for everybody involved with the NFL. You get somebody with the kind of exposure and the following like Taylor Swift, who does love football. I've known her for 15 years. I first met her in New Orleans. She loves the game. And so that's great for us, right? Take the relationship out of it, which if they're happy,
hey, we're
I'm
pulling
happy.
for him.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, way to go, Trav.
Right?
I don't know if you heard the songs. She sang a couple songs about him. She feels so high school about Trav. It's great. It's great album. It's a great song. Connor's got a question for you, Commish.
Yeah, Commish. Obviously, right now there's kind of this transition period with college football and NIL and how much that is changing kind of the landscape of everything when it comes to college athletics. Have you seen any sort of change, at least in the players that have come through in recent years in comparison to previous ones, just because of the fact that they are coming to the NFL with money? You know, yesterday Pat mentioned, these college guys for the first time are getting time and money once they get to the NFL, and now it's kind of like, well, they already have the money now. Now they're just getting a lot of more free time. Have you seen anything like that? Is that something that you
the
monitor?
one thing that was really interesting to me is because we've always held very strongly to our eligibility rule. So you have to be at least 3 years out of high school. And in the last 3 years, we've seen that go from about 110 back down to about 78, 80, somewhere in that area. And the reality is guys are staying in college football because they're getting paid.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that's a bad thing because they're still in the college program. I'm a big believer in college football. I love it. I watch it all day. But I also think they make stars for our players. They give them that platform. They get them ready to play the professional game, both physically, mentally, and otherwise. And so I think it works. On the other hand, we always look at what does this mean to us? What ultimately is this going to mean to the game of professional football? We work really closely with college football. I'm meeting with them in the next week. We want to try to help. We want to try to do.
Well, are you going to take them in? Are you going to bundle them?
No, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I really don't see that. At least today, but not. I don't see that in the future.
So, whenever we're talking about the college football, and I've gotten baptized in it with College Game Day, they've just dropped me right into college football.
Yeah.
Bad decision. A lot of the old whites hated me. In the South, these people hated me. Why is this doofus in our game? But I've got to learn a lot about it. A lot about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, all the problems that are currently happening in this transition era with no guardrails on the NIL, there's no free agency period, there's no actual contract structure, so some of these players are signing deals that are giving up like 25% of future earnings. Like, it's kind of all over the place. There's so many issues with it, though. Like, there's only a couple people that could probably fix. You're one of them.
Yeah.
So if you got time, why don't you do that? Why don't you go take care of college football?
Am I part-time, John?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you go do that? That'd be great. But it has served as a minor league to the NFL for a very long time. So obviously you have the importance with each other, but like there's so many questions down there. Do they ask you about any of this stuff?
Yeah, and we talk a lot about, I mean, COVID's a great example. Everything we were doing COVID, we shared with college football. So I was talking to conference commissioners and telling them what we would do. We shared our medical protocols. We found a way to get through that and try to help, the game of football overall. And we did that with other leagues too, to be honest with you. We all sort of shared information. But I think that's true in this case. The problem with it is who's in control? Is it the NCAA or is it the conferences? And how they're moving around. So for us, I don't know enough about it right now, but if anybody asks us for help, we're going to try to do our best.
They need you. So I hope that happens ASAP. And as we roll into round 2 of the 2024 NFL Draft, let's look back on what happened in round 1. Make-A-Wish kid.
Oh, that was good.
Yes. Justin Lavergne. Did I pronounce that right? Lavergne? I think it's right.
Just Laverne.
He does, obviously, he calls Xavier Worthy getting drafted to the Chiefs with a trade with the Buffalo Bills, and it's a magical night. You do a lot of this. I don't think I remembered how many different high school athletes were out here.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was firefighters out here. You got a Make-A-Wish kid out here. Yeah. You're doing a lot of good for the community. But immediately after that, I guess you FaceTimed Andy Reid as well, and there was a Yeah.
I didn't. Oh.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, you set him up. Let's go, Raj.
Yeah, well,
look at the commissioner's a human. I didn't know that was the case. That's a sweet thing. That's a sweet night.
Well, Coach is a great guy, and that was a moment that he's just a great kid, and it's a great story of his father and son and all the things they've been through. So Make-A-Wish is a great program for us. But that was a chance I knew Andy would grasp it, and he responded right away. So
that's beautiful. Hey, whenever you say the Atlanta Falcons take Michael Penix Jr., while it's coming out of your mouth, you're like, well, the world's about to explode right now. Is that, yeah, you understand that?
No, it was funny. When I got the card, I looked down at it and I go, wow, this will get a reaction.
Yeah. That's right. Speaking of a reaction, you got picked up last night. Recent back surgery. You okay?
I did, yeah. No, it wasn't too bad.
We handling big bumps still? We practice? We run into walls before this? How do we?
I actually had a guy from NFL Films who's about 6'4", about 260. I said, just pick me up once. And just let me see how it goes. And that just let me down easy. But he was great. That's a great kid. And you know what it is? It's just a pure emotion. And that's, by the way, I probably had back surgery because of all the other drafts.
Yeah, Christian. You and Christian Wilkins.
Christian, I could have died.
We're happy you didn't. We're happy you didn't. And we're thankful you stopped by. I used to say you were scared to come on the show, because we'll ask you real questions. But what I should have realized is just like in that team meeting room, right before the lockout, there's no such thing as a tough question to Roger Goodell.
Nope.
You are the man to be guiding our league. We're very lucky and thankful. Can't wait to see what you do next. And can't wait to see how you screw over every fan base. can't wait to see how you do that. We appreciate the hell out of you. Ladies and gentlemen, the commissioner of the NFL.
Can I take my M&Ms?
All of them. Yeah, sure. Peanut M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms. Roger Goodell.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
What a legend.
Great.
This guy's like shaping the biggest I'm talking about you on your way out. Yeah. You don't want your peanut M&Ms, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to take them.
All right. I appreciate you.
Him around
it's
all
cold
day.
as shit up here. If you can make it warmer, I know you got control of the weather.
I'm going to press you in short sleeve shirts.
Well, I didn't pack for it, It's April.
I'll get you a shirt.
Didn't plan for this wind.
Raj Goodell. You're the man,
cheers.
Raj. Thank you, buddy. Unbelievable.
Legend.
All right. From Roger Goodell to Dan Orlovsky.